Hello guys. Welcome back to another amazing fanfic story. First of all, a huge thank you for all the love and support on part 4. So many of you were asking for the next part in the comments, and because of your requests, I'm finally back with part 5. Naruto reacted instinctively, creating a guard of cage bunchins who promptly pulled out kunai as they turned towards the voice. Temari had her tesson in one hand and the other in Naruto's pouch, pulling out a smoke bomb by feel. In the 3 seconds it took Naruto to recognize Jiraiya, all of his bunchins were preparing to attack. Damn it, Arrow Sennin. What do you want? Naruto grumbled as he released the bunchins. Temari, realizing that Naruto knew this man, took a long look at perverted hermit. Sure, his first layer suggested he was a hermit of some sort, but underneath that were signs of a competent and serious shinobi. Giving you too early presents, Jiraiya said, keeping his tone serious to indicate he was here on business, not pleasure. Naruto caught Jiraiya's tone and smartened up. Jiraiya only acted this way when he was serious about something. Hi, you might as well come in then. Blinking for a moment, Naruto recalled his basic manners and introduced Jiraiya to Temari. Sabaka no Temari, Jiraiya Gama Sennin. Jiraiya, Temari. In a loud stage whisper, Naruto added, while he's powerful, Jiraiya's also a super pervert who writes the books Kakashi-sensei reads. He's the #1 suspect when it comes to pervert speaking. Yada. Don't tell her that, Jiraiya proclaimed as he grabbed Naruto and gave him a good shake. Baki. Plus, stop calling me Arrow Sennin. Putting things together, Temari watched Konoha's most powerful shinobi, Jiraiya the Frog Sannin, act rather like a fool as her own future husband mocked him back by making faces. The shouting match between the two carried on for less than a minute before Temari's instincts cut in and she reached up and grabbed Jiraiya's ear. Dragging Jiraiya, who was choking Naruto, inside, Temari growled, "Behave." Sitting the two down on the couch, Temari crossed her arms and glared down at Naruto and Jiraiya. With a raised eyebrow, Temari tapped her left foot and in a sing-song voice, "Boys, do you realize why I'm upset with both of you?" With hangdog expressions, Jiraiya and Naruto exchanged shame-filled glances and quietly said at the same time, "No, Temari." With her index finger, Temari carefully aimed it at Jiraiya. "You are an adult, a Sannin of Konoha, and old enough to be a grandfather. Behaving like an 8-year-old civilian is simply unacceptable." Jiraiya slumped even further and said, "Yes, ma'am." Turning her finger like a weapon, it landed on Naruto, and Temari said in a disappointed tone, "Naruto, in this house we will have certain standards of behavior. We will not greet guests with shouting matches and childish behavior. Even if he is a pervert, and you act that way while training with him." "Yes, Temari-chan," Naruto added as he collapsed into himself, shrinking beneath Temari's scolding. Nodding as she noticed her message was received, Temari changed her tone to a brisk, cheerful one. "Good, now that we have that straightened out, Jiraiya-sama, you wanted to tell us something." Stretching outwards, Jiraiya filled his side of the couch and with a serious tone said, "First off, I want to create a securely sealed room to store your jutsu scrolls and other secret knowledge. By the time I'm done, it will be secure as humanly possible." Nodding at this, Temari asked, "A buried chamber or regular room?" "Buried, to prevent an arsonist from having an easy time. Naruto can dig it out in addition to a root cellar over the next few days. I'll lay it out for him tomorrow morning," Jiraiya answered quietly. Nodding at this, Temari said simply, "Good, I haven't touched the sealed scroll box my brothers gave me for lack of security." Jiraiya suddenly shifted the mood as he whipped out 2 carefully wrapped presents and let his perverted grin cross his face. "Signed original copies of mine and my niece's works, Ika and Ten, the #1 choice for men and women's literature." Naruto, his present in hand, froze suddenly. Kakashi had mentioned Temari's rule the other day. Glancing at Temari, who had frozen in place as well, Naruto sensed the coming storm. Her temper was building up at the books Arrow Sennin had given them. He was guessing that other series was something a female pervert version of Kakashi-sensei would read, although hopefully not out in public. Jiraiya, his perverted leer growing larger, added unwisely, "I figured sure Naruto may be a touch young, but why not make sure the wedding night's a blast A bit of a guide and hint manual, I might add, that's proven a tonic to thousands of marriages." A sour expression passed over Jiraiya as he added in a disappointed tone, "It's not as if there's going to be any more of the 10-10 series anyway. Not with my niece squandering her gift by doing that awful series, the horrible things she's making my male characters do. She's sold out. No poetry, no art, just straightforward yayo smut. A terrible, terrible waste." Diverting Temari, whose twitching eyebrow was a fair indicator of an explosive force building, Naruto asked quickly, Ero Senin, what does she look like anyway? Don't call me that, Baki. Jiraiya proclaimed instantly before adding, Tsune usually wears a black one-piece outfit and a short jacket, why? Groaning, Naruto said, I knew you were involved in our latest mission somehow. Is your entire family perverted? Leaping up, Jiraiya struck a proud pose and said, not just perverts, kid, super perverts. My grandfather, however. Here Jiraiya had to pause and wipe away a tear. The man who taught me everything I know, well, he was an ultimate pervert. We will never see his like again in our lifetime. Temari had enough. In an ice-cold tone she stated bluntly, I'm going to bed. The books had better not be here in the morning. Heading upstairs, the two male shinobi watched her in a shared silence. Temari, however, was fuming. 2 out 4 of Naruto's role models were perverts. Damn it, she wasn't going to put up with a perverted household. Good job, Ero Senin. Naruto stated in a sour tone. The evening had been going great until Jiraiya showed up. Now your perverted behavior has made Temari-chan mad at me. Shrugging his shoulders as if this was of minor consequence, Jiraiya replied, she'll get over it. More importantly, have you told her about your prisoner yet? Naruto froze and frowned at this and in a quiet tone said, no. Squirming a little, Naruto added in a hollow tone, I just wanted to be normal for once, date you know, without being burdened by that. Jiraiya let his face freeze at this, with the burdens Naruto carried and the others he was about to lay on the kid. His desire to be normal was understandable. Yet normalcy was never going to be Naruto's path. He desired to be Hokage, his parents, and yes, the Kyuubi itself prevented that. A look of sympathy filled Jiraiya's eyes and he said, Naruto, you're not normal. Out of all the genin in your class, only your teammate Sasuke comes close to being as far from normal as you are. However, Temari isn't normal either. Her brother is Shukaku's medium, she's the former Kage's daughter, and now is in a treaty marriage. That doesn't mean I don't understand your desire. I don't want a treaty marriage. Naruto said bluntly. I want a real one. I never said it out loud, but one of my dreams was to always be one of those proud parents at the academy, to have the clan name Uzumaki known and respected throughout Konoha. Jiraiya felt his gut twist at this. Should he tell Naruto about Akatsuki or not? Then in an instant Jiraiya made his decision. Staring Naruto in the eye, Jiraiya said with as much honesty as he could muster, tell her before the engagement. I have news that you and your future brother-in-law will need to know, and that conversation won't withstand secrets. Frowning, Naruto got up and started moving upstairs. I understand. Would you take the books with you? Now is not the time. Jiraiya simply gave a perverted grin and replied, you got it, kid. Besides, it will make your bachelor party all the more fun. Temari was crying herself to sleep, something she hadn't done since she first saw Gaara transform. Yet this time it wasn't because of utter terror. No, Temari let her salty tears flow because she was so out of place here. The scents were wrong. The sky was wrong. Just so much green was wrong, and even worse was the cold eyes she felt wherever she went. That easy banter between Naruto and Jiraiya crystallized something. Here in Konoha she was utterly alone. Only the forced relationship with Naruto was her lifeline here. It was his friends, his teammates that she knew. Even back in Suna, Temari had her classmates, her friends, teachers and acquaintances. No matter how many feared to come close because of Gaara, at least she had people. Yet that was why she wanted a normal relationship with Naruto, to be the special woman he courted, wooed and succeeded in getting her to marry him. Against the harsh reality of their assignment tonight had been a pleasant illusion, a sweet figment to ease her heart. That kiss though, Naruto too would want that illusion. What had Iruka and Kakashi said? Ah yes, her future husband was an orphan, a pariah of the village for whom family was important. Why not? They were both orphans who were affected by demons, her brother and the kitsune that killed his parents. Sitting up, Temari wanted someone to hold, to cry silently into, and to spill her heart to. However, she didn't want it to be Naruto, not when so many of her hopes, fears and dreams revolved around him. With a quick slice of her thumb, Temari moved her hand through seals and pushed her chakra out as she summoned the one friend she would always have. Her quiet cry of, Kuchio's no jutsu, was met with a puff of smoke. A weasel nearly 2 meters long, wearing a black vest, red sash and holding a sickle, looked up questioning at his mistress. This wasn't her room and it wasn't a battle. Kamatari, however, was suddenly hugged tightly and felt tears soak into his fur. Acting on instinct, he wrapped himself around her. This was something he hadn't done in years, in fact since he had first formed his contract with her. As Temari stroked his fur, Kamatari asked in his rough, direct tone, "Oi, what's wrong?" "Everything," Temari said as she began spilling her fears and doubts to her summon and friend. Naruto sat cross-legged on his bed watching the trees through his window. Tonight, until Ero Sennin had shown up, had been magical. For once in his life, Naruto had felt normal, hell felt special to someone and had someone special with him. His body was aching for Temari, for the look in her eyes, for that utter lack of fear she had for him, like a drug he craved. He was terrified that once she found about the Kyuubi, his chance at a normal relationship would be cut off. Know that any relationship would cut off and she'd marry someone else. Sasuke and Shikamaru were the obvious choices. After all, Sasuke was special and Shikamaru was brilliant, just as Temari was. After all, her brother had a demon in him. Why should her husband? Out of all those, Naruto knew there was no one he could talk to. Kakashi Sensei was too weird to ask about relationships, and Iruka Sensei wouldn't get it. Even Naruto knew Iruka had no luck dating, and wasn't looking to get serious. If only old man Hokage was here, he'd have the best advice. Yet he was dead, so now Naruto had no one he could talk to. Then Naruto frowned and smiled as he realized that he did have someone to talk to, a father who no doubt could give him serious advice. Shucking off his nightclothes and into his regular outfit, Naruto opened his door and headed down the stairs. Moving quietly, he slipped his sandals on and started moving to the river. Gathering his chakra, Naruto concentrated hard as it visibly flared around him, and then biting his thumb began to summon. As the smoke cleared, a giant frog sat puffing on his pipe, and in a voice that matched his size, Gamabunta asked, "Oh, what do you want, Naruto?" Leaping off Gamabunta's head to take a seat on a tree branch level with Gamabunta, Naruto said in voice fraught with tension, "I need advice and someone to talk to. With old man Hokage dead, I couldn't think of anyone else. See, with the war with Sand over, they did a peace treaty, and no, I have to marry Temari." Taking a long pull on his pipe, Gamabunta frowned and then let out a large cloud of smoke. "I see. I bet Jiraiya suggested something perverted, huh?" At Naruto's nod, Gamabunta smiled slightly and said, "Right, start from the beginning, kid." Gamabunta listened in silence as Naruto told him everything. From the treaty marriage, to Temari's fears, to the kiss they had shared earlier that evening. The giant toad never interrupted, only puffing his pipe as the river flowed quietly beneath the moonlight. When Naruto finally finished, he lowered his head. "What if she finds out about the Kyuubi and hates me?" he asked quietly. "What if everything changes?" For several moments, Gamabunta said nothing. Then the giant toad laughed. Not a mocking laugh. A deep, knowing laugh. "Kid, you're asking the wrong question." Naruto blinked. "The right question is whether she likes Naruto Uzumaki or not." "What? People who only see the fox were never worth your time in the first place," Gamabunta said. "A true bond isn't built on secrets or power. It's built on trust. If Temari only cared about what was sealed inside you, she would have left already. From what you've told me, she keeps choosing to stay." Naruto stared at the river. Choosing to stay. The words echoed inside his mind. "Then why am I so scared?" Gamabunta's expression softened. "Because for the first time in your life, you found something you don't want to lose." The answer struck harder than any punch. Naruto realized it was true. He had chased acknowledgement his entire life. He wanted to become Hokage. He wanted the village to respect him. But right now none of that scared him. Losing Temari did. For a long time neither spoke. The night wind rustled the leaves overhead. Finally Gamabunta stood. You know what your father would have told you. Naruto looked up instantly. What? The giant toad smirked. He would have told you to stop acting like an idiot and tell the girl the truth. Naruto couldn't help laughing. Yeah. That does sound like something Dad would say. It absolutely does. Naruto stood and looked toward the distant lights of Konoha. For the first time all night, his heart felt lighter. Tomorrow he would tell Temari everything. No more lies. No more hiding. Whatever happened after that would be her choice. Thanks, Bunta. Don't mention it. With a puff of smoke, the giant toad vanished. Naruto remained alone beside the river. The moon reflected across the water like liquid silver. Yet as he prepared to head home, a sudden chill ran down his spine. His instincts screamed, danger. Naruto spun around instantly. Nothing. Only darkness between the trees. But someone was there, watching. A pair of crimson eyes briefly appeared among the shadows before vanishing completely. Naruto's hand moved toward a kunai. His expression hardened. Far away, hidden deep within the forest, a cloaked figure lowered their gaze. The Nine Tails Jinchuriki, the stranger whispered. Moonlight glinted off a black cloak decorated with red clouds. And for the first time, the storm known as Akatsuki had set its eyes directly upon Naruto Uzumaki. The next morning Naruto woke after only a few hours of sleep. The image of those crimson eyes lingered in his mind like a fading nightmare. For a moment he considered telling Jiraiya immediately, but another thought pushed itself to the front of his mind. Temari. He had promised himself he would tell her the truth. Downstairs the house was unusually quiet. The scent of breakfast drifted through the air, but there was no sound of movement. Naruto found Temari sitting alone at the kitchen table staring out the window. A cup of tea rested between her hands. She looked exhausted. Temari noticed him and forced a small smile. Morning. Morning. Neither moved. Neither spoke. The awkward silence stretched between them. For the first time since they met, both of them seemed unsure what to say. Finally Naruto took a deep breath. Temari-chan. There's something important I need to tell you. Temari's eyes narrowed slightly. The seriousness in his voice instantly caught her attention. Without speaking she set her cup down. Naruto sat opposite her. His palms were sweating. His heart was pounding. He had faced assassins, giant snakes, bloodthirsty enemies and insane missions. Yet this terrified him more than all of them. I've been hiding something. Temari remained silent. Naruto swallowed. When I was born, something happened. Before he could continue, the front door exploded inward. Wood shattered across the room. Naruto and Temari were moving before the debris even hit the floor. A kunai appeared in Naruto's hand. Temari grabbed her tessen. 3 masked Anbu landed inside the house. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto frowned. What? The Hokage Council requests your immediate presence. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Now. Immediately. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Temari noticed it too. Anbu normally carried themselves with discipline and professionalism. These 3 seemed tense. Nervous. Almost afraid. Naruto exchanged a glance with Temari. Without a word both understood. Whatever awaited them wasn't routine. Minutes later they arrived at the Hokage Tower. The atmosphere was chaos. Shinobi rushed through hallways. Messengers ran between offices. The entire building felt like an anthill someone had kicked. Naruto's stomach tightened. Jiraiya appeared at the end of the corridor. The moment Naruto saw his expression, he knew something serious had happened. The Sannin looked grim. No jokes today, kid. What happened? Jiraiya motioned them into a secure room. Inside stood Kakashi, Shikaku Nara, several elite Junin and even representatives from Suna. The sight alone sent alarm bells ringing. Jiraiya closed the door. Then he dropped a scroll onto the table. We've confirmed movement. Nobody spoke. The room became completely silent. Jiraiya continued. Akatsuki. Temari immediately stiffened. Naruto's eyes widened. The crimson eyes from the forest flashed through his memory. Jiraiya unrolled the scroll. Several faces appeared. Dangerous faces. Missing nin. Monsters. Killers. People whose reputations stretched across nations. The organization has begun moving openly. Kakashi folded his arms. They're searching for something. Naruto already knew the answer. Or perhaps he feared it. Jiraiya looked directly at him. They're hunting the Jinchuriki. The room felt colder. Much colder. Temari slowly turned toward Naruto. A terrible realization began forming in her mind. Jinchuriki. Gaara. The vessel of Shukaku. Then her eyes shifted back to Naruto. Questions appeared behind them. Questions she had never considered before. Naruto noticed. And knew the moment had finally arrived. No more delays. No more interruptions. No more hiding. The truth was about to come out. And depending on Temari's reaction, everything between them could change forever. The room remained silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Temari's gaze never left Naruto. 1,000 memories flashed through her mind. His loneliness. The villagers. Strange looks. The whispers. The cold stares. The way some people seemed afraid of him for reasons she never understood. Suddenly everything began fitting together. Naruto closed his eyes. He had imagined this moment countless times. None of those versions felt as painful as reality. Taking a deep breath, he finally spoke. I'm a Jinchuriki. The words hung heavily in the air. The Kyuubi no Yoko was sealed inside me the day I was born. Temari froze. Naruto forced himself to continue. My parents died protecting the village. His fists clenched. The fourth Hokage sealed the 9 tails into me. Every second felt like an eternity. Naruto couldn't bring himself to look at her. He had fought enemies stronger than himself. Faced death countless times. But this was terrifying. Finally he heard movement. Temari stood. Naruto's heart sank. He already knew. She was leaving. Just like everyone else. Just like always. Then he felt something touch his shoulder. Naruto opened his eyes. Temari was standing directly in front of him. Not afraid. Not angry. Not disgusted. Just sad. Very sad. Before Naruto could react, she pulled him into a hug. The room collectively stopped breathing. Naruto froze completely. Temari wrapped her arms tighter around him. You idiot. Naruto blinked. What? You absolute idiot. There were tears in her eyes. You thought I would hate you for that. Naruto couldn't answer. Temari's voice trembled. My brother carries Shukaku. Her grip tightened. I know exactly what that burden feels like. Naruto stared at her. His chest hurt. Years of loneliness cracked under the weight of her words. I was scared, he admitted quietly. I know. What if you left? Temari rested her forehead against his. Then I wouldn't be Temari. For a moment Naruto forgot everyone else was in the room. Forgot Akatsuki. Forgot politics. Forgot everything. There was only her. A warm smile appeared on Jiraiya's face. Even Kakashi looked strangely pleased. Unfortunately the moment didn't last. A sudden gust of wind burst through the room. Every Junin immediately reached for their weapons. An exhausted messenger crashed through the door. Blood covered his uniform. His breathing was ragged. Emergency report. Shikaku stood instantly. What happened? The messenger swallowed hard. It's Sunagaku. Temari's face paled. The room went silent again. What about Suna? She demanded. The messenger looked directly at her. The cage has disappeared. Temari's blood ran cold. Gaara. Her mind immediately jumped to her younger brother. No. 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 This couldn't be happening. The messenger continued. Several witnesses reported seeing unknown shinobi near the village shortly before his disappearance. Jiraiya cursed. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. Everyone in the room understood immediately. Akatsuki. Naruto's expression darkened. They took Gaara. The messenger lowered his head. We believe so. Temari felt her legs weaken. Gaara. The brother she had spent her entire life protecting. The brother who had finally begun changing. The brother who had finally found happiness. Gone. Naruto stepped beside her. His voice became cold. Dangerously cold. When do we leave? Jiraiya looked at him. This isn't a rescue mission anymore. The Sanin's eyes hardened. This is the opening move of a war. Far away, hidden within a dark cave illuminated by strange ceiling symbols, several cloaked figures stood in silence. At the center of the room lay an unconscious red-haired cage. One figure slowly opened his eyes. Golden rings glimmered within purple irises. The one tail has been secured. Another figure chuckled. The 9 tails will be much harder. The leader's expression remained emotionless. It doesn't matter. His gaze shifted toward the distant horizon. One by one, a terrifying smile appeared beneath the shadows. They will all belong to Akatsuki. The journey to the land of rivers began before sunrise. No one wasted time. Within hours an elite rescue team had been assembled. Naruto, Temari, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Shikamaru, several Anbu. Every second mattered. As they raced through the forest, Temari's thoughts remained fixed on Gaara. The brother she had once feared more than anyone had become someone she would gladly risk her life for. Beside her, Naruto remained unusually quiet. The cheerful knucklehead was gone. In his place was a determined shinobi whose eyes burned with purpose. 3 days later they found the hideout. A massive cave hidden among towering cliffs. The moment they arrived, Naruto stopped. I can feel him. Everyone turned. Naruto clenched his fists. Gaara's inside. Without hesitation the team charged forward. The battle erupted instantly. Explosions shook the mountains. Wind blades tore through stone. Jutsu illuminated the dark sky. Akatsuki members emerged from the shadows one after another. But this time they weren't facing scattered enemies. They were facing a united Konoha and Suna. Temari fought like a storm unleashed. Her giant wind blades carved through the battlefield. Every attack carried the fury of a sister fighting for family. Naruto fought beside her the entire time. Protecting her. Supporting her. Never leaving her side. Hours later the battlefield fell silent. The last Akatsuki members retreated. Their mission had failed. Deep inside the cave Naruto finally found Gaara. Alive. Weak. But alive. The moment Temari saw her brother open his eyes, tears filled her own. For the first time in years, Gaara smiled. A genuine smile. You came. Temari immediately hugged him. Naruto looked away politely. Gaara noticed. Then something unexpected happened. The cage stood slowly and approached Naruto. The entire cave became quiet. Gaara extended his hand. Naruto looked confused. Gaara rarely initiated physical contact. You saved me. Naruto scratched his head. That's what friends do. Gaara shook his head. No. His eyes shifted toward Temari. Then back toward Naruto. You saved my sister too. Temari immediately turned red. Naruto nearly choked. Gaara's expression remained completely serious. If you hurt her, I'll bury you in a desert. The cave erupted with laughter. Even Kakashi struggled to hide his amusement. Naruto raised both hands. That's not exactly reassuring. For the first time, Temari saw her brother acting like a normal older sibling. And she loved it. Weeks later peace finally returned. The treaty between Konoha and Suna strengthened. The threat of Akatsuki had been pushed back. And for once, both villages could breathe. One evening the leaders of both villages gathered for a celebration banquet. The atmosphere was cheerful. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed across the hall. Naruto stood nervously near the center of the room. Temari stood beside him. Both looked equally anxious. Then Gaara stepped forward. The room immediately quieted. As cage, he announced calmly, I would like to recognize the shinobi who risked everything to protect Sunagaku. His eyes landed on Naruto. And as a brother, a small smile appeared. I officially approve. Naruto blinked. Temari froze. The entire room immediately understood. Cheers erupted everywhere. Before Naruto could process what was happening, Gaara produced a small ceremonial box. Jiraiya nearly fell out of his chair laughing. Kakashi openly closed his book to watch. Temari's face turned bright red. Naruto looked as if his brain had completely stopped functioning. Gaara handed him the box. Don't make this awkward. You already made it awkward. More laughter filled the hall. Naruto slowly turned toward Temari. For once, the future Hokage was completely speechless. Temari smiled. A beautiful smile. One that erased every fear she had carried since arriving in Konoha. Naruto finally opened the box. Inside rested 2 engagement rings. His hands shook slightly. Temari. The confident Kunoichi suddenly looked nervous. Naruto took a deep breath. Then smiled. Not the grin he showed the world. A real smile. Warm. Honest. Hopeful. I don't know what the future looks like. The room fell silent. I don't know if I'll become Hokage tomorrow or 10 years from now. Temari listened carefully. But I know one thing. Naruto gently took her hand. No matter what happens. His blue eyes met hers. I want you beside me. Tears appeared in Temari's eyes. Her answer came instantly. Then you'd better get used to me. The hall exploded with applause. Naruto slipped the ring onto her finger. Temari did the same. For the first time in his life, Naruto Uzumaki felt complete. Not because he was powerful. Not because people finally respected him. But because he had something he had dreamed about since childhood. A family. Later that night, long after the celebration ended, Naruto and Temari stood together overlooking Konoha. The village lights shimmered below. The stars stretched endlessly above. Temari rested her head on his shoulder. Naruto looked toward the Hokage monument. For years it had represented his greatest dream. Tonight it represented something more. A future worth protecting. Temari intertwined her fingers with his. Thinking about becoming Hokage. Naruto smiled. Yeah. And Naruto looked at her. Then at the village. Then at the stars. I think I'm finally ready. As the wind carried their laughter into the night sky, neither noticed the dawn beginning to rise on the horizon. A new chapter of their lives was just beginning. The end. If enjoyed the story, subscribe and press the bell icon for the next part update. Thanks for watching.